Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to watch. Today, we talked with State Rep Delisha Boyd, who's running for one of our consul at large seats, on my topic of talking about outcomes and doing things, not politically, but actually professionally and looking at outcomes. We got a lot of responses. So take a listen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Are You Tired of This Shit? And our streak continues. Everyone's tired of this shit. I haven't had someone say, oh, no, everything's going great. Um, the goal here, again, is to get the issues or questions related to outcomes of city operations and trying to reverse our population loss. We got to stop it before we reverse it. So, Rep Boyd, Representative Boyd, District 102. So you're running for a full-time job compared to your part-time job. I know we've joked about that in the past. The part-time job, well, I know one part-time the way you do it.
Any chance?
Not at all. But one of the things here, you've been an auxiliary council person for Algiers for some time. I know you've taken on at the state level some city things. I can only assume it's because the city wasn't operating properly. But I see our city falling far from its potential, going backwards, based on how things are managed and operated. There's a lot of politics, and so far with this election and the campaigning, I'm seeing a gap between what people are telling me, what they're feeling, why they're leaving. And I see our political campaign going on just like it's a regular election. I see the political players, all the behind the scenes, people that control things. In general, I think there's a couple critical areas, but just could you talk a little bit in general of how you're going to play whatever role you can in turning this thing around? Because we definitely head in the wrong direction. And the population loss is really bad. That we lose restaurants, we got fewer of us paying the tax burden. And how can we have a city growing with budget when we have a population shrinking to pay for it? Because I think just taxing people more is going to run more people out, and it's going to head us on a steeper decline curve. So your thoughts?
So something you said, the city is falling behind. When we have fallen, it's done.
Yeah, we are behind.
Falling. Yeah. We are losing 3,000 to 4,000 people every year for the last 5 years. So we're looking at 25 to 30,000 people that have left the city for a variety of reasons. You have businesses that don't want to come here, businesses that can't survive here. The businesses that don't want to come is because they can't take root here. You have a CEO or a company or a board looking for someplace new to come and land and build a business, but they don't have a great infrastructure where they can put a business where people can get to it safely. They don't have schools where they can enroll their children in schools to get quality education here in New Orleans. You don't have where you have your wife or significant other where they feel safe in the city, whether it's day or night. It is a collective reason of things that people are leaving. One being, New Orleans has become unaffordable for some people, where most people will tell you we have to find an affordable way of doing business. I believe you increase everybody else to match that. As an investor, I don't want to have to reduce what I'm doing as an investor in the city. Let people get paid more than $7.25 an hour. Pay your teachers more money where they want to stay here and not have to leave and go other places where Texas is paying their school teachers $95,000, where Mississippi is paying their teachers more money than we are. What's wrong with that sentence? That Mississippi is doing anything better than we are doing is ridiculous. Pay your first responders where they don't come here. Police officers will go to the academy, get trained, stay here a year, and don't have to leave the state. They can go to other jurisdictions right here in the city and make more money where they can live comfortably in that community already. Right now, our NOPD officers work here. They live in Slidell. They live in La Plaza. So our mindset has to change. It is okay for a community to grow. That's what we want. You want to grow. We want to have an economic impact and development here, but that means everybody in the city has to grow with it. So what you have is people who are right out of college, or how about this? If they go away to college, they're not coming back. That's it. But they right out of college and they go to other communities that are thriving, like Nashville. Have you seen Nashville lately? I mean, thriving,
Well,
the
I,
infrastructure and the
I, I
development.
s- I see the numbers on Nashville, Knoxville, a lot of southern cities that culturally are, well, Nashville's big culturally, but a lot of them that are growing are not culturally anywhere close to New Orleans. Well, one of the things, okay, so you hit on a few key points. When I'm one of the things I've mentioned, and when I'm talking to people who've really only done politics and haven't really had a hands-on company operation, which is the vast, I think everybody that's been the mayor, because the outcomes haven't changed no matter the mayor or the council person. Um, I find that they only see political outcomes because we don't have a separation of policy from politics. You know, all the power and levers an elected official gets, um, I think they should separate reelection, but here there's no separation. And it's because I think a lot of them don't understand the entrepreneurial world. So the concept that that people don't understand is the value creation. So how can city government create value? You don't. First of all, you stop destroying value by making interactions with the city better. But your background as a self-made entrepreneur, growing your own business, what, how do you see your viewpoint differing from those that have just done politics or pushed paper around their whole career?
So sometimes as a business owner, and you know this, Laney, you have to make decisions that may not be understood by the masses, but you make decisions that are best for the business and the growth of the business. Let's take, for example, the municipal auditorium. You can't possibly think that people want that place to stay vacant and be an eyesore
That's
for
right.
the rest
No.
of history of New Orleans. And for those that do, that make the most noise, you got to remember that is a small number. Although it may feel like a lot at the time at a town hall, you get 10 plants to come in and start screaming and kicking and hollering. Well, there's more than 10 people that live in that area, and people who want to see less crime. Because when you have places like that or any blight across the city, that brings on one, it doesn't look good, it brings on more crime. People have to understand that sometimes a decision has to be made that may everybody may not agree with. Do you think everybody agreed with what was going on in Georgia and Atlanta or Dallas or Nashville? You need people who are strong enough to make great decisions and be able to have conversation with people where they see the bigger picture. I think that's been my success in Baton Rouge, where I could sit and have conversations to present a bigger picture where people are not going in already on defense. The defense mechanisms are not up. You have to be able to one, intelligently make your points. And it does not have to be argumentative. It just has to make sense, right? And if you're sitting down with somebody who has more than an eighth grade education, they're going to get it. We cannot keep moving in this space of this is the way it's always been done. Well, we're losing because we're still doing things the way it's always been done, and you have political candidates that are running that claim they want change. We've seen this since the beginning of time. But you get in, you talk a good show to get in, and then you get in and you continue to conduct business as usual. We need people who are strong enough to get in and not conduct business as usual. And believe it or not, once you have a leader that does that, others will follow. Others will follow because
Well,
they
I've
see
been trying.
some.
No, sorry. I've been trying to, story of our politics has been play not to lose, and I've been trying to talk play to win. We have to play to win. We're in a tough spot right now. One of the things that affects the daily lives of everybody in the city, and I think would be a great issue, is sewage and water board. I've heard a lot said about sewage and water board. I don't know if anyone has plans to reform it, starting with a reset of governance. The way I see the governance doesn't work. It's micromanaged by the mayor. Even if you have a board of smart people, they can't do anything. I think our general manager who just left. I'm sure if somebody interviewed him under oath, you get some interesting things. But it seems like the organization just manages itself, or various people and or contractors just run the thing. So I think if that doesn't get straight, and we get, I mean, at some point in the future, if it's made to function, it should be a city department. There should be a goal, a plan to do that. But it's going to take a lot. So it's going to take governance and management, and all the workers of the sewage board. It'd be so much better for them, the real working people, and not the operators, so to speak. To have a merit-based system where it's not who you know, it's about the work you did. I've talked to a lot of former sewage and water board employees, very much demoralized. The output, the outcomes were based on political factors and not professional factors. So what can you say? And I think it's like a third rail. Nobody wants to touch it. There's some fear of the political ramifications of trying to reform the sewage and water board. Well, I think it'd be a positive for the citizens, positive for the workers, and okay. And I'll have one more point that I want to hear. It's going to take incredible resources that we don't have to address the problems there. And I don't think we're going to get them unless we change our governance, and to be open and accountable and shine a light everywhere, because we have a history of just literally pissing away resources. Like I've spoken to you and others that have sent money to the city for certain things, and you can't find it. And so I think we need to shine a light on the city and the sewage and water board. But I think without sewage and water board reform, I think we kind of dead in the water on population loss. And not everybody agrees with me, but anyway. So what can you do there?
I don't know that if you can show me someone who does not agree with the fact that we need to reform sewage and water board, please, I'd like to slap them once or twice. And here's the reality of it. I'm not afraid to create the change that's needed. I did the same thing with RTA, creating transparency and accountability with their board. We cannot start keep appointing people based on repaying political favors. That does nothing for us. One, you making the appointment of someone who can't bring any value to sewage and water board, and somebody accepting the appointment who know they can't bring any value to it.
Yeah.
And we need a complete reform. A complete audit of that. Like you, I have actually sat down and talked with some people who are current and former employees of sewage and water board. Now, I'll give two examples. One, the pumping stations. How basically they are unmanned with supervision. So you have people who work at the pumping stations, especially that night and overnight shift, that go clock in and leave. That's wasted money. That money could be going somewhere else within sewage and water board because it's not being manned. I have a developer that he was building 40 houses, new construction houses on undeveloped land, and we needed water lines added. In the sewage and water board teams, 4 trucks of people, filled with people, arrived around 8 o'clock that morning. And one of the people on the site called me around 1 o'clock and said they still haven't started work. And I was like, what do you mean? What are they doing? Just sitting around waiting. So I left my office from uptown and went in Gentilly. I said, what the heck? And he goes, oh, we were waiting for the supervisor. I said, since 8 this morning? Yes, ma'am, we can't start without the supervisor. So they had been there. 4 big trucks of people. Let's say each truck had 6 to 8 people all day long on the clock with no work. So sewage and water board is bleeding from the bottom up. And until all that's corrected, so all this money that we think we need, they have a lot of money, they're wasting it. When I say reform, all of that has to be redone. And listen, I don't know what this new director is going to do. I haven't met with him. I have an appointment, I think, next week with him to sit and hear what his plans are. I know the smart meter has made some impact for certain people. This belief, though, that they got rid of estimating billing is simply not true. We still get calls in my office about people
Hmm.
with $5,000 and $6,000 bills, and that's because Sewage and Water Board for so many years has been able to run and operate in this dysfunction that no one is courageous enough to correct the dysfunction because of what that looks like. And that does mean complete reform. That does mean completely rebuilding from the ground up. People are afraid of work. That's what I found out with another bill that I had that has nothing to do with city government, but we were leading the nation in women that died at the hands of their abusers with domestic abuse. And I thought that was going to be a feel good bill. And I got so much resistance from it. And basically, what it was is people didn't want the additional work. Then quit, then resign. If you're not willing to make a system better for the constituents that live here, because we're not the only one that has old pumps below ground. We're not the only, we're not unique to that. And other places seem to make it work. That's because we have allowed this dysfunction and this belief that there's no money when really we don't know how they're using the money they have right now. They're misusing that already.
Well,
Um,
I think there's no doubt that there are outside resources that can help us in terms of knowledge and equipment and solutions in general. But again, it seems like to do business with the sewage or the city, it seems like you have to go see the special man, and we're not at Frank and Johnny's Furniture anymore. And I don't. I think the serious companies, they've seen. They have the internet too. Okay, they've seen all the investigations. Like you go see the special man, do business with New Orleans, and before you know it, you're being investigated and you're suing everybody. It all falls apart. That we've hit that repeat button post Katrina consistently, consistently, and it's embarrassing. But you can't embarrass some of these people. So, it's hard to know where to start. I mean, I think some basics.
Because most of them have no idea what they're doing anyway. You can't be embarrassed by something you don't know. And
Yeah,
that's why we have a bunch of people who are in place that have no idea, that are trying to feel their way through versus us hiring the best, appointing the best, so we can have the quickest way. And it's not going to happen overnight, but I think constituents in New Orleans will be just happy seeing progress headed in the right direction.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, so
with rebuilding and making things accountable to the people, where we see what's happening, we see what's going on with the money and who's spending it and how it's being spent, and then also if you have a track record of heading in the right direction, the federal government, state government, they'll step in. These are policymakers and lawmakers. There's no such thing as who can and can't give you money. It's if they want to do it.
yeah. Well, it'd be nice to lower the path to resistance by, showing how wise and we're going to be creating value and spending it. Um, Another thing is the people of who live in New Orleans, like you and I, we own the place. We're shareholders in the city of New Orleans, and how can we be treated like customers when we interact with the city instead of why you bothering, and should we have a dashboard that could check our permit application like we track our UPS package? Should the people in that service get training, in customer service? Because you hear a lot of companies. I know we've had some shakeup in commercial real estate with hotels, people leaving the market, and I've heard complaints from companies who are here to import money, and create value. I mean, our city should be looking at the top 4 or 5 business sectors that import money to the city and saying, hey, what do you need to import more money? Instead of harassing them. Okay. So, how do you turn that around?
Here again, you have people in safety and permits, for example, that have been there 35 plus years. Very few people have been there less than 10 years, believe it or not. So you have people in this mindset of, This is just how it's been done. They're not open to new things. And sometimes when you need to rebuild, some of those people may need to retire. If we don't create a business friendly city hall, we don't have people like there's a young man on North Claiborne that wants to revitalize an old place called the Bottom Line on North Claiborne. They're waiting on
Mhm.
permits for almost a year. If he could figure out a way to sell that building and leave, he would do it in a New York second. 10 over 10 months, still waiting for permitting. And I have a million of those stories being a business owner in the business of real estate with people who just don't want to do business here.
Yeah,
That
no, they don't.
was supposed to be something that was created easier because we have a staff of people who have no idea what happens with one app. It's actually made it even more complicated. So to get new people in, once again, we have to be willing to pay the best to be the best. This idea that we want to hold on to money as if, we live in America. When people make more money, guess what they do with it, Laney? They spend it. They
Yeah,
don't put it under their pillows and sleep on it. They don't put it in the closet. They actually spend it. So until we get this idea of whatever we have to hold on to it. Because a lot of these things, what I'm finding out is that the money is there. It's almost like they're holding it for a rainy day to come that never happens until something happens and then we're reacting to it. For example, the Super Bowl was coming, so then you saw a lot of activity. You saw the city kind of wake up and them fixing potholes and uh, doing different things around the city. When Taylor Swift came, you saw some activity.
yeah,
So a lot of the money is there, but everybody, when you listen and you look, when you take a deeper look at it, they have money. They're holding it as if they have to hold it, thinking we may need it later. So nothing is
yeah,
getting. We have to pay better people to be in place who can rebuild this one app program to something that's actually functional and friendly, business friendly, where people want to
yeah.
come and
No,
again and take root and not have to be held hostage and be treated. And I mean, have you had dealt with those people just to have a conversation with them? It's rude. The customer service is at zero. They have forgotten that they work for the people of the city of New Orleans. So I think that department for me, first and foremost, has to be rehauled. That's first and foremost for me. You have to have the ability to want people to want to do business here, um, and know that they can get business done here. Whether it's building permits or safety permits or whatever it is, there has to be an easy way to get that done to bring new businesses into our city.
one
And
of
that's
the things,
too that we're not business friendly, right?
yeah, yeah,
It's not a secret anymore because if you live in California, you have this booming business and you're looking to expand it into a southern region. And I have had my experiences in the southern regions, and you say, well, man, New Orleans seems like with the port, with tourism, with
yeah,
convention, the ideal place to set up business. And I tell you about my experience there. And I
yeah,
tell you the worst
yeah.
place,
No,
the
people come in.
place to set up business.
Yeah, I know people come in energetic, optimistic ideas, and they buy in, they do something, and they leave a couple years later having lost a bunch of money.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
because they see what we should see in value. We should by far be the richest city in New Orleans based on the things that we have available to us.
in the South. Yeah,
But now we're suffering also because our tourism is down, conventions are down. It's just not a great place to do business. And even with the crime reduction, and we'll give Kirkpatrick her praise for that, it is at an all-time low in New Orleans. However, it's still high crime, if that makes
well,
sense.
yeah, it's still too high, and the politicians put out stats, but the question is, do you feel safe? And people feel safer when a place is clean, well lit, like even the one way signs actually pointing the right way,
Right.
and people honor the traffic light system, don't almost run over you.
Well, how
That's
about
when people feel safe.
at work too? You know, we're so accustomed to traffic lights not working. You know, so to honor the traffic lights, you got to have them that are actually working.
Yeah.
And since I've been running, you know, we're out almost every night until 10, 11 o'clock. And literally, we'll be in mid conversation. And I say to Brandon, what the heck is happening in this city? Like, no lights anywhere. It's like we live in a rural third world community with regard to even just street lighting. Not just traffic lighting now. All of a sudden now street lighting in every community. I wish I could say every community but uptown, but literally every community we're in, because we're running citywide, at night, Brandon's probably sick of me saying it because by now I should know they're just out everywhere. But we'd be in mid conversation and I'll say, God dang, they're just lights out everywhere. You know, it's just it's we need change and we need people who are strong enough to push the city forward. Period. I don't care whose feelings are hurt by that and who gets insulted by that. Whatever we have right now is not working.
So on the council, if you're successful, um,
When
in
I'm
the
sick,
past,
when,
for your council race here, if you're on the council, you've looked at you've been to meetings and looked at the recordings I've looked at. You know, we seem to have some improvement that we can use in the conduct of the council itself and the relations with the mayor. And it seems like no matter who they are, we can have some responsible adults get together and do what's best for the city and policy. But again, we've had politics rule, and it's embarrassing to see all this screaming and council obsessions over some things. And I don't want to complain because that's wasting energy. I just looking forward. Hopefully that can get much better and change drastically. Another thing is, again, what's going to be needed. I like to use the term Team New Orleans, where for a while, or hopefully for a long term, everybody who lives in New Orleans can realize, hey, we're all in the same team, no matter what our other little teams are affiliate, cultural, racial, whatever, clubs or churches. It's like, for now, we need to let Team New Orleans be the main operative. And the way I told people is, they talk about Republican and Democrat. It's like, okay, we're bailing a ship here. We're bailing water out of a ship. What color bucket you want? So I really see it that way because I see how we're losing to our competition, and I know how hard it is to turn around momentum. Because people leaving, that means more people are leaving now. That means it's another restaurant closing somewhere, another barber, some service, another banker, and there's leverage on this loss of people. So how can you play your role in getting a team New Orleans together when we seem to be petty and divided right now on this election?
well, Laney, my ability to bring people to a table is evident by the work I've done in Baton Rouge. I have been in the supermajority Republican House and Senate supermajority men since I was elected 3 years ago. I think the reason why within 5 months I was awarded Rise and Star of the Democratic Party, within 12 months I was elected as the vice chair of the Black Caucus is because of my ability to bring people to a table and sit and have reasonable, sensible conversations regarding what's best for our city, for our state, and bring people who, on some end, before I got there, were not like-minded people. I could care less, what your party and what your race and what your sexual orientation is, if it's for the betterment of the city. I'm not trying to get married here. I'm trying to do what's best for the city ahead. So when I get there, my ability to be able to bring people together, because I'm going to have individual relationships as well with every council seat, a district council seat as well, because each community is different and unique, that need to be heard to make sure that we're making that particular area is not just surviving in New Orleans, that's thriving in New Orleans. and regardless of who is the mayor. And that don't mean we're gonna agree on every single thing. We're all individual people. I don't agree with every Democrat. I don't agree with every woman. I don't agree with every black person. It's being able to do what's best for the community as a whole. I've taken votes in Baton Rouge that uh, myself as a business owner might be able to benefit from, would be able to benefit from. But is it for the betterment of our community? So if it's for the betterment of the people who I was elected to represent, I'm not going up there to be to represent Delisha and Delisha Boyd Realty and Delisha
Yeah.
Boyd Agency, none of my businesses. Personally, I'm hoping that my impact will continue. My businesses will continue to thrive in New Orleans and in our state. But I'm not there for a personal agenda. I'm here to make it better to be Team New Orleans. I think you need a sensible person who is still young enough to work 16 hours a day, but mature enough and have experiences enough to bring people together to a table.
I know we need adults in the room because we've lacked them in the past.
Yes.
A last topic I'd like to close up on, wrap up on. It's one of my favorites. I mean, um, it's about our youth programs and how we've been, from the city standpoint, we've been failing our youth. I know my work with Heroes of New Orleans and Great Gravy, and the city has been very inconsistent with youth programs. So, like, we got money, we don't. This department handles it, that department handles it. And what's not working is the top down. And, I know from being engaged in a program, I my understanding of our issues centered around poverty and youth has gotten a lot bigger because, I'm a curious person and I want to know everything. And I'm not afraid to ask and dig into it. And, if we don't start orienting these programs based on the view these kids have, we're not going to get them straight. So you see the kid and you see the family. And that's where the program has to be the focus, not what the mayor wants to accomplish. It's not a top-down thing. It doesn't work. The other thing is I see funds handed out politically and not strategically and not based on outcomes. My whole purpose here is to get outcomes. And if there's a place where you need them and we need to measure them, it's in our youth space because we're failing them. And and it's not there. It's a lot of leverage because there's an offense and a defense. The defense is we've got to keep them out of the criminal system where they become a liability, a tremendous liability. But the offense is there's no in between. We got to get them engaged in the economy. We got to get them educated with job skills, job communication skills, life skills, money management skills, all these little things that we know they don't have because of the very limited view they have in poverty. So but and the other concern is that's tied to this. We're becoming a third world nation, and the reason we are is that the middle income people, those are the ones leaving because they can afford to go for opportunity, and they have the skills to seek that opportunity. And so there we go. I know I'll ask 2 or 3 questions, but I would hope that you could play a role in the city being more consistent and more focused with outcomes instead of political processes. The city could play a leadership role in incentivizing good results by having nonprofits work together, share data sets, et cetera, et cetera. So, what are your thoughts about that?
So that is a very compacted statement you just made. And what I'll tell you, a part of my platform has been about how children, it sounds so cliche, but it's facts. Our children are our tomorrow. And we in this state seem to have removed ourselves from that the kids right now are tomorrow's leaders and doctors and lawyers, to the point where we don't want to fund youth programs. We don't want to pay our educators. We don't. So in 10 years, and I'm saying 10 years, I'm being generous at this point, we're going to live and feel and look like a third world country because kids won't be able to go anywhere and compete in the United States, definitely not on an international level, because we won't support them on, you won't support them with this charter system where they're not learning because they're being taught to pass the standardized test. You won't support the youth programs that, like Heroes of New Orleans. You want to prepare them for real world uh, um, experiences and real world where they can work and actually earn money that's needed, because they're not being groomed to be tomorrow's lawyers and doctors. So, like Heroes is one of my favorite programs because they want to give them life skills where they can go out and get a job that earns more than $7.25 an hour. But we won't support programs like that. So, and I tell people who are disconnected from that, you can think that you can turn your nose on what teachers are being paid and what our kids are being taught. You can think you can turn your nose on supporting and uplifting programs like a nonprofit like Heroes because it doesn't affect you. This is a circus right now. We have successfully made New Orleans a big circus, under a big circus tent. And like with every good circus, if it hasn't hit your community yet, it's coming, right? Because if you don't have people who are invested in uh, understanding why it's important to pay our teachers, well, the teaching pool comes from the same place. Just because your kids are at Newman or Country Day and you're paying $30,000 a year for your kids to get educated, well, they don't have special teachers for those schools. They're coming from the same pool, right? And if you're not paying your teachers, that means no valedictorians are going into education. No salutatorians are going into education. So who's left to educate our kids? If schools are closing down the education departments because no one in Louisiana wants to go into the field of education, and they're doing it. Dillard closed their department down. Kathy Johnson says she might have a year left of her education department. Then who's left educating your kids? I don't care what school they attend. Then you don't want them to get to learn anything of value in school, but then you don't want to support the programs and nonprofits that would help them develop life skills, would help them develop understanding finances. We will be literally, you have been being facetious about it, a third world country in less than 10 years. Because these kids are going through the system now. We've had a bunch of them already out the system since Katrina. Think about it. If we continue this way and not understand that, one, yes, that has an economic impact on New Orleans. If I'm looking for a place to start a business, to plant a business, to expand a business, I'm looking at the totality of the city where I'm moving. Can I give my kids quality education? And unfortunately, in New Orleans, just because you can pay or afford for Country Day, don't mean they're getting a quality education. Because that teacher comes from the same teaching pool that's going into the schools that are free. There's no special school for you to attend to teach at Country Day. It's the same pool of teachers. So when that business owner is looking at all of that, how will my children thrive in this community as well? It's not enough to say, when they go to college, I can send them off to Harvard or Yale. Our kids in New Orleans won't be able to get into a Harvard or Yale because they can't compete.
And you have to get, for a company coming, they have to be able to hire workers with the right skills. So we're in look, I've said we've been in a value destruction cycle, and our problems are inbreeding on themselves to where we decline this
workforce development programs, not just for our kids, for the adults. Some adults need to go through some retraining to get trained in new fields. So if you have companies that come in, we can't staff the places we have right now because people are leaving. So how are we going to bring a business in and tell them that they have to hire local when we can't hire locals our damn self here?
Well, one thing I think we have to do that we see at Heroes, we have kids that are skilled and would be great to go in hands-on vocational trades. But Delgado can't take them till they're 18. But to be honest, we could have some starting at 13 or 14 with hands-on skills. But it would need to be some nonprofits doing this in the city. We know that that's something we would love to do at Heroes. The city would have to provide the resources. We could take some unused school, we could something, make it a trade center. But again, transportation's an issue in our poor city, on and on. But yeah, because these kids have the skills to get in a very creative trouble at that age, and so if we can just show them a direction, because yeah, I haven't met any kids who want to be criminals, want to die at a young age, even though they seem to be stuck in a system that leads them down that path. It doesn't give them another one. And the one thing I might say is that compared to the third world countries near us in the Caribbean, they have better roads than us. That's the only caveat I would have to add. Again, I hate to be negative, but we have to be realistic about where we are. Somehow pick ourselves up,
Right.
and move forward. So,
And
well, look,
I don't think it's negative because you're stating the facts, and the only way we correct the facts is to know what they are.
well,
And
and to
it's factual information. It's not necessarily negativity. We're trying to figure out what's the
yeah,
positive push through this.
and I'm comparing what we are to other places because I travel and I see what other places have, and a lot of our people haven't been traveled to other places, but some have, and a lot those are the ones moving. Other people have twice a week garbage pickup. I mean, that's ridiculous. And there are even places where the city doesn't fool with garbage contracting. I think there are enough contractors around here they could just compete and let people hire garbage pickup like they hire cable, from internet from some provider. So we have a lot of discussions to have to move forward.
Well, what you
Um,
add to that is we only have 1 day a week, and many of us are still paying for two.
yeah, no, that's right, and no. So I guess we see the same city. I've talked to some people. I think apparently they live in some other New Orleans, but the pie, the shrinking pie for those who aren't aware that it's shrinking is not shrinking, and and some of these political operatives are quite happy. They have jobs, they're in control, and they have some power. But it's got us where we are, and hopefully we can continue awareness of outcomes and let people know that you don't have to deal with this. And that's why we have Are You Tired of This Shit is the name of this effort. And I think it's an appropriate one. And the one thing I didn't mention in our talk, but I have in others, um, you know, I get bull gassed every once in a while, which is the BS and gaslighting put together, and it happens a lot. If somebody wants to not tired of the shit, want to say, "Oh, everything's great," I'll press a bull gas alarm on that. So look, thanks, Delisha, for your time. I know you're busy, and let's keep our fingers crossed for New Orleans, but we got to do more and keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, thanks again. I know you've made a big impact in politics, um, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't put up with that. And look, another little reminder. In my lifetime, we've lost 2 congressional seats. That means our state's down 1.5 million people. If we had just kept up with the other states,
Right.
and imagine if we had 1.5 million more people to help pay the taxes, and imagine in New Orleans if we had another 200,000 to help pay the taxes, because that infrastructure is kind of a fixed nut. Okay, so it's a matter of how many people can be paid for it. And so here we go. There's so much at stake. And
The biggest nut with the infrastructure is, I know firsthand our Orleans delegation has sent millions down for our infrastructure. I know firsthand that our congressional representation has sent 700,000 plus to his district,
wait,
which includes
700 million, 700
700
million.
million, I'm sorry, 700
Yeah,
million, which includes New Orleans. The bigger question is, why are we sitting on that money? What's happening with it? We need a complete audit of that money. We keep saying we need more money. What the heck is happening with the money that you got already?
that's a
And
good
so
question.
me that I think people were stealing it. No, I think they are not using it properly. They're
Yeah,
not using it for what it was intended to do, or figuring out ways to be creative and innovative to use those funds.
yeah.
It makes no difference to send the money if we're not using the money.
yeah, we're just not getting the outcomes. We're just not getting them. Um, and but um, again, you and I have talked about New Orleans for a long time and solutions. And I know when I first met you, you were empathetically connected and stressed by the condition of the city. And I know that's what drives you. So good luck in your campaign, and good luck for getting the things done that you want to do. If you're successful. So so
Not when I'm successful.
yeah, no, well, uh,
When I'm on the city council.
that's a good way of putting it. You
Mhm.
know, again, this is an issue podcast and not an endorsement podcast.
I'm endorsing myself.
That's fair because we had another.
I have no problem with endorsing myself as the strongest candidate, the candidate who has already proven that they are about hitting the ground running and getting results done, regardless of who else is on the other side pushing back. And that's what we need. We need someone who is strong enough, experienced enough, with the knowledge of knowing that just because you said it can't happen, or just because you threw out some crazy number at me, I'm going to go sit back at my desk and say, okay, won't happen on my watch.
Yeah, in other words, an adult in the room.
Yes.
Well, thanks, and if something comes up, we might continue having some podcasts. But I would love to see the election where everybody for citywide office is talking about outcomes and different ways of getting outcomes. It hadn't happened yet, but we've had a couple of people talk about outcomes, and so let's see how this emerges. I know we're just in the second quarter maybe of the election. I know a lot happens near the end.
45 days out.
Yeah, yeah,
Time is of the essence right now. We're
yeah. I
all
think
hands on deck, moving ahead aggressively to get the vote out. Greg Riggmer gave me some numbers last week, and 40% of the people are still disconnected from
wow,
any election cycle. I
wow,
think
wow.
more than 45%, if I remember correctly, that are still just detached. And as much as that is disheartening to me, I understand, because life is life, and they sick of people giving them the same BS and doing nothing with it.
Yeah,
Right? If I get it, my goal has been to get into rooms, to talk about what I've done in a short amount of time that I've decided to jump in and be on the inside of a room where I could make decisions, so they'll know that it's not going to be BS as normal. It's not going to be politics as normal with me. That's not what I've done so far, and it's definitely not what I plan on doing on the city council. We don't have time for that.
well,
We're
the people.
trying to figure out what they can and can't do. We need people who know what they can and can't do. And listen, I haven't even won yet, and I get people telling me, "Well, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to do it." I will, because that position is legislative. It's a lawmaker. It's policy making, which means I can create policy that makes sense for the citizens of New Orleans, and that's what I plan on doing.
Well, the people who say, "Why should I vote?" Because no matter who I vote for, nothing changes. They've been 100% right for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's
This conversation so many times on people who would come and sit and talk with us about what their plans were, and then they'd get in office, and we'd be somewhere together saying, well, what happened to that person? And I'm gonna tell you what happens. They get in and they start running for the second term.
yeah,
They get
yeah.
in, and they really don't want to make waves because they like being elected. They forget all the BS that they talked about what their plans were, which is why people voted for them, and then they get in and give the people more of the same. It's crazy.
Well, my observation is that career politicians are like, when you have a rapper or a sports star, all of a sudden have, $20 million. Okay. Well, it seems like out of the groundwork, the wrong kind of people show up around them. And I think the same thing happens when people get political power, and those people, and those people benefit from it, and they don't want to lose their position either. And that's where the play not to lose comes in instead of play to win.
Yeah.
And we can't take any more. We can't handle any more of that. We need outcomes. We need outcomes that are policy and for the good of the people. And it's a matter of who's willing to give up some political power, but by not managing something that's managed like shit anyway, you know,
Right.
and for the benefit of the people, and let it be run the right way. So let's hope, let's be hopeful about this election. And
Yeah.
that's all, because we're both optimists, but we're realists,
Yeah.
and I don't mind doing whatever I can do. I know you don't. We get our hands. We're operational people, and the city needs operational help right now.
Right.
So thanks for your time, and it's good seeing you, and good luck out in the campaign.
Thank
Well,
you, friend.
yeah, take care. Well, you heard it straight from the source, from Rep Boyd. She has a no foolishness, get it done approach. So think of it what you will. There's you know nothing vague there. So I'm glad we got some clarity on what she would contribute and how she would change the city. So thanks for watching, and there's more to come. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Bye.
This has been a BAM Network production.